Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of Fernie City Council held on September 9th, 2025. Kisukukit. We acknowledge that the city of Fernie is located within Kukanamakas, the unceded territory of Yakutat Nucleate First Nation. We recognize that we live and work within their vast lands. Akanahunik are from Yakutat Nucleate and are members of the Ktunaxa-speaking peoples of British Columbia, Idaho, and Montana. I will call the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. We do have a late agenda item, and I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for the following staff recommendation: that the agenda for the September 9th, 2025 irregular meeting be amended to add late item 11.1, TELUS Shoring and Underpinning Licensing Agreement for 692 3rd Avenue Mixed-Use Development, and that item 11.1 be moved to the beginning of the agenda for council's consideration, and that the agenda be adopted as amended. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Artie Kelly. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. I'll now ask for a mover and a seconder for the following staff recommendation: that the minutes of the August 19th, 2025 special meeting be adopted. Moved by Councillor McIsaac, seconded by Councillor Artie Kelly. Any discussion? All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you. And again, a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the August 26th, 2025 regular meeting be adopted. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Shoesmith. Any discussion on those minutes? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. I'll now open the floor to public participation and invite the public in attendance or participating electronically who wish to comment on the items listed on the meeting agenda in accordance with section 3.7.3 of the procedure bylaw to address council, except speakers must not address council regarding a matter for which a public hearing must be held or has been held pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of the matter or adoption of the bylaw. Speakers must not address council regarding a permit for which public notice must be given or has been given pursuant to the Local Government Act prior to council's consideration of issuance of the permit. A speaker may only address council for a maximum of 3 minutes, and speakers are asked to state their full name and community of residence. And as historically, I please ask everybody to be respectful and let folks speak unencumbered. And I would ask as well, if you could silence your cell phones before we get started. And I'll turn to our corporate officer.
Our first speaker, Your Worship, is Elena Anselmo.
And sorry, Ms. Anselmo, we don't have the 3-minute timer clock that we've had in the past, so our corporate officer will time on the phone and she'll give you a 30-second warning when coming close to your 3 minutes.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Milligan, council, staff, and members of the public. My name is Elena Anselmo, and I live at 20 Mount Trinity Avenue in Fernie. I am also the president of the newly formed Prentice Park Society. The sole purpose of the Prentice Park Society is clear. Prentice Park Society is dedicated to protecting and preserving Prentice Park in Fernie as community recreational land for current and future generations. Our mission is to safeguard Prentice Park from non-recreational development, promote transparent and accountable decision-making, and support recreational and cultural activities that strengthen Fernie's community life. Tonight, I stand here with over 1,700 supporters who signed our petition to save Prentice Park. Not every signature had a civic address, but they represent real people, Fernie residents, past residents, and nearby users of Cervello Field. Their message is simple: keep Prentice Park as parkland, as the covenant and the founding families intended. On July 15th, Council not only advanced the financial bylaw on 3 rushed readings, but also eliminated the referendum, removing the citizens' right to vote, so the city could chase a not guaranteed $7 million Strategic Priorities Fund grant. That choice put grant timelines ahead of the community trust and public voice. The city's own technical report showed strong opposition to using Prentice Park. The covenant on title was there to protect it for recreation. Even when the city subdivided land out of Prentice Park in 1994 for the new high school, Council at the time had the courage to register a covenant requiring the land remain for recreational use. Where is that same courage tonight? As I remind Council, under the community charter, if a councillor abstains from voting, it is deemed a vote in favor. In other words, abstaining is the same as voting yes to this advanced financial bylaw. On behalf of the Prentice Park Society and the hundreds of community members standing with us, I ask Council, do not pass this financial bylaw. Instead, give citizens their voice back with a referendum on location that is fair, transparent, and community-driven path forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Anselmo.
Our next speaker is Rob Pooper.
Rob Poupart, third generation, born and raised locally here in Fernie. I just want to bring up a couple of items. One excuse you had for not using 902, it could be contaminated. I lived a half a block away from there since 1956, and I am 99% sure that there was never a dry cleaners on that site. I'm also questioning the train contamination excuse. If you are worried about that, why the hell would you be drilling, looking for backup water supply for the city 6 blocks down the tracks? Does CP only contaminate between the crossings? A councillor said that our forefathers would be happy with what was happening with the covenant. The city believed in the covenant so much, they put one against the school district land that is part of Prentice Park. I think our forefathers would be rolling over in their graves if they could see what you people are about trying to do. You gave us recycling and compost bins to save the world for generations to come. Then you do a complete 180 and want to destroy green space. Where do you actually stand? If the ball field is destroyed, will the field updates go into long-term planning like the Sandy dump? Sign me up for that planner's job. The $95,000 you offered to upgrade the other fields, which by the way is just a drop in the bucket, should have already been in the yearly maintenance budget. So you are not really giving the citizens of Fernie any extra money for the upgrades. You voted 7-0 to not use 902. What about other sites then? Build a fire hall on the lot across from TJ's beside the city yards, and build a satellite station housing the first responder truck and 1 fire truck at the condemned community center. Approximately 85% of the calls are highway related. That site would provide easy access to the highway. And an added bonus is that there are already pedestrian lights already at the intersection. All that has to be done is install a non-flashing red light that can be controlled by the firemen. Using these 2 sites would be a win-win. Right side of the tracks and wrong side of the tracks covered. Coming from a coaching background, when the referee was being unfair, I would shake their hand and say, thanks for your time. So, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Poupart.
Next is Deb Poupart.
Deborah Poupart, council members, city staff, and concerned citizens. I have some concerns and questions on the $7 million grant application for the new fire hall at Prentice Park. We all agree on one thing, our community needs a new fire hall. That's not in question. What is in question is why, with so much visible and vocal opposition to Prentice Park as the location, this administration seems determined to place all of our eggs in one basket. Why risk losing a potential $7 million grant, which is not guaranteed, by tying it to a location that faces clear and significant public pushback? Do you have a plan B? With the grant deadline of September 12th, time is ticking. So here's a reasonable question. Why not submit a grant application for our water supply or our sewage treatment plant? By doing so, you will ensure the grant application does not go to waste, regardless of what happens with the fire hall. I am also standing here for clarification regarding the recent removal of the Save Prentice Park posters by a City Hall employee. Specifically, I would like to know who instructed the city employee to take these signs down, or did they act independently? The community deserves transparency on this matter. The removal of those signs sends a troubling message to residents who are simply exercising their right to express support for a local cause. By the way, your employee is very photogenic.
Thank you, Ms. Poupart.
Next, we have Tom Slikwa.
Hi, my name is Tom Slika. I live at 1222 9th Avenue. I've lived in Fernie now for just over 46 years. Mayor, councilman, council members, and the city of Fernie employees and concerned citizens. I've lived here for just over 46 years. I cannot believe that we are up here again fighting to try to keep park space. Many years ago, we had to fight again. I don't know why the city wants to use park space. Is it easy? Is it cheap? Do you have different motives for some other land? But we had to fight for the park on 12th Street and 10th Avenue. We fought like the Dickens and we won that one. We got to keep that park. Here we are again, trying to fight for park space, which is very hard to come by. I have to say, I am very, very disappointed in the city of Fernie, the employees of the city of Fernie, the committee that has been struck to find a location, and the council people. I'm very disappointed that we are actually considering getting rid of park space for a very, very important project like a fire hall. There has got to be another piece of land in this city that could house this. I'm just absolutely beside myself that I cannot believe that we are doing this, that we're fighting again for park space. Park space is so hard to come by, especially gifted park space. Holy moly, I can't believe it. But anyways, I didn't have a speech written. I just wanted to say something. I just want to say how disappointed I am that we are fighting for park space again. And I really, really hope that you guys change your mind, because there's got to be another place in this city to house a fire hall so that our firemen can do their job and keep us safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slika.
Our next speaker is Chris Inglis.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City staff, gallery. Try to keep my presentation as professional as possible, but the process that has brought us to this stage is unbelievable. So many staff, city staff, council members, especially the fabulous four and the mayor. You can't be trusted, along with the CAO, Michael Baranowski. And I want to just touch on that a little bit. Michael Baranowski, I've been in contact.
Point of order. Mr. Inglis, we're not going to sling mud at staff. We're not going to sling mud at anybody this evening. No, this is about policy, the decisions of this council. Mr. Inglis.
Processes. I'm just saying, I'm going to repeat the word that Mr. Baranowski said to me.
Your worship, if I can, well, I've communicated multiple times with the individual that I'll communicate with him in writing so that there's actually a written record that's reliable. That's been our standard since before I was an employee at the city of Fernie, since before we weren't allowed to connect with each other. And then since that order's been rescinded and contact is again allowed. perfectly happy for a formal complaint to go to yourself and the ombudsperson of the province. But frankly, there's a there's a very real impact on employees being attacked with information when there's a very clear process and repeated attempts to communicate in writing. So there's a record and the offer of formal processes and the offer of support. So I would ask, if you want, allow it, that's fine. But my strong preference would be that the individual put their complaint in writing and that council, as my employer, handle it. That would be appropriate. That would follow procedure and bylaw appropriately. And that would follow our stated requirement between myself and other staff that we communicate in writing because of the pattern of changes between communication and then what's believed to have been said down the line.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Boranowski. That would be my preference, Mr. Inglis. If you take the communication you received from Mr. Boranowski, if you have a complaint about that, please put it in writing in an email and send it to my counsel at fernie.ca.
That's not why I'm standing before you. I'm up here to state a statement that Mr. Boranowski said to me that he would not share Sal's information. So how can we be in contact? I'll just continue on.
No, you won't, Mr. Inglis. I've instructed you as to how I would like this information to come to council. If you have a complaint, then put it in writing. If you don't take instructions well, please confer with someone in the community who can help you formulate your complaint, and we will deal with it as a formal complaint at council. But articulating it here, to Mr. Boranowski's point, I don't think it has value. I think you will receive a response from council if you put it in writing and send it to us.
Before I have received a response. Is that the response I will receive?
You will receive a response from council. That is my personal commitment to you. Well, thank you. We've heard enough. Thank you, Mr. Inglis. Well, what else do you have? One minute, 42 seconds left.
So Shell's words in the letter said they will not intervene, but the city hall residents and city staff and council have to work together for a resolution. When when the city council is making the resolution, you're not working with the 1,700 people that have made against the location. You're not working together. And that come right from Shell's office. So the resolution isn't up to, it didn't say the resolution was up to the city of Fernie. It says the resolution is up to the city of Fernie and the residents to work together to find the common ground. You haven't found the common ground. You found your ground, what you believe in, and that's not what the Shell is asking for. And also too, I'd like to just touch on a former employer of the city of Fernie, Mr. Patrick Schroffley, who now works in Sparwood. You talked about putting a ball field up at the old dump. Well, I would honestly like to buy a 4-person tent and put you, the mayor, and the 3 councils in that tent and let you camp there overnight, because there's methane gas coming out of that ground. And you really want to put a ball field up there with methane gas coming out of the ground for the kids and the adults? It's just unbelievable that you don't know about this. So, and because the rodeo grounds tried to put an arena up there and they couldn't, because nothing can puncture a rubber seal that's in that ground. All I know, citizens of Fernie, November 2026, vote no for Milligan, Nixon, McIsaac, and Hamilton. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Inglis. Is there anyone online who's indicated a desire to speak?
No, Your Worship, no one online.
No, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your impassioned presentations to council. Moving on, item 11.1, the TELUS shoring and underpinning licensing agreement. A report from our manager of planning.
Good evening, Council. Brief verbal presentation tonight to accompany the report that's in the council package. The project at 692 3rd Avenue is requiring some shoring to go into the ground in order for worker safety with construction of the foundation and the building itself. That shoring has a horizontal anchor that goes underground, and one of the sides that is adjacent to the TELUS building, it's required to go into that property. The license agreement in front of you is a reciprocal agreement that TELUS has requested, essentially that the city, as the landowner of 692 3rd Avenue, give TELUS the opportunity to do the same thing in the future should they decide to restructure their property. If this was a one-way agreement where TELUS was just signing off on allowing shoring to go into their property, it wouldn't need to come forward to council. But as a matter of getting it as a lands disposition agreement, it is coming to council tonight for discussion and questions. And then the recommendation is that we, as staff, continue to move forward with that agreement and sign it. The short term is the agreement itself, and in the long term, we will work with TELUS on an actual easement on the property that will be registered against title for both properties.
Thank you, Mr. Similini. Mr. Bornowski.
Thank you. Mr. Similini did a mountain of work to get us to this point with TELUS and the Elk Valley Family Society. One note just for clarification, this is a license and therefore not a true disposition. It is a disposition matter, so the 2-week public notice, et cetera, will come when we advance the easement. There is language in the agreement that the society is comfortable with, where the society is essentially backstopping, where they would provide compensation if an easement doesn't ever come forward. But the city staff fully intend to bring that easement forward promptly and address that issue to ensure that the society isn't on the hook for that.
Thank you, Mr. Bornowski. Anything else, Mr. Similini?
No, Your Worship.
Questions from council? Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Your Worship. My question, as I was reading through the license agreement, the question that popped to mind was, what would happen if TELUS sold that land, city sold the land, the Elk Valley Family Housing Society decided to vacate their lease, and wondering whether or not that would be transferable to the new parties. And I just want clarification that I read 7.8, 7.9, and 7.10 correctly, that they're forced to transfer the easement or license?
CAO Bornowski may clarify this, but that is the intent. It would work the same as a covenant, for example, registered on title, where the owner would inherit that title and that covenant with title.
Other questions, comments? I'm curious, Mr. Similini, so this is a reciprocal agreement between TELUS and the city. If it strikes me like we're looking, or sorry, the proponent, the Elk Valley Family Society, is looking to put horizontal anchors under the TELUS building into that property. Is a reciprocal agreement, if I understood it correctly, they could do the same if they were going to build up their lot. But forgive me, there'll be a foundation there now. So what's the advantage for them?
Your Worship, through to council, I thought the same thing. It would be an engineered solution where they would have to, like, say the shoring would go under the foundation that's there. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on how that horizontal shoring works, but I believe that the engineering solution would ensure that there isn't damage to the building next door.
So there is a potential circumstance like that foundation doesn't come exactly to the property line.
That's correct.
So there is a potential they could put vertical anchors. I'm thinking aloud here. Vertical anchors on our property and then anchor their own shoring to that as an example.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, comments? And just Mr. Bornowski, maybe you can, are we taking on any additional liability as a municipality here?
All three parties are agreeing not to damage each other's properties beyond the shoring encroachment area, that 13.5 feet. That's the area on either side of the property line that all three parties are basically taking on mutual liability. But
Okay.
the society has added TELUS as an additional named insured, as well as the city. And then our lease with the society has further insurance. So we are extremely risk averse, but very safe here. And then Mr. Similini's right. When we move this to an easement, it becomes a very simple easement, and probably not a blanket easement, but with some specifics around it that would allow for, non-damaging work to allow either party to ensure that their buildings and their foundations or any shoring was possible.
Okay, that's what I understood from the agreement. I just wanted to make sure we were all aware of that. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll ask our corporate officer to read the recommendation.
Your Worship, in Council, the staff recommendation is that Council authorise the Mayor and Corporate Officer to execute the reciprocal licence agreement attached to this report and named the licence with TELUS Communications Inc. for shoring and underpinning to be located on Parcel A, being a consolidation of lots 11 and 12, CCB 2086799, Block 18, District Lot 4580, Kootenay District Plan 734. And that Council directs staff to continue discussions with TELUS Communications Inc. to advance a reciprocal easement, including Parcel A being a consolidation of lots 11 and 12, the CB 2086799, Block 18, District Lot 4580, Kootenay District Plan 734, to replace the license to allow for shoring and underpinning.
Mover, Councillor Ramadas, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks, Council.
Thank you, Manager Similini. Item 10.1, the loan authorization bylaw adoption. We have the bylaw in our package. I don't believe there's any presentation this evening. Mr. Burdett.
I have a couple of slides for council.
Okay. Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. Good evening, council, members of the public. Quite brief for me tonight, just a couple of slides. One is covering adoption of the loan authorization bylaw, and one is a couple of resolutions from council before we submit our application for the Strategic Priorities Fund grant stream. I do have the presentations from July 15th and August 19th handy, should council have any questions about what was discussed over the last couple of months. With respect to the loan authorization bylaw, there were a couple of recent council reports and presentations that went in to this bylaw. One was the report that council received on July 8th, which informed council of the $16 million project budget, of which included $12 million worth of borrowing. And of that 12 million includes the $7 million grant opportunity that we're applying for. At the meeting the week after, July 15th, council then gave the initial 3 readings to this bylaw, which I'll point out again was always the target schedule. The day after, July 16th, the bylaw was submitted to the province for inspection, and we received approval from them 15 days later on July 31st, which was decidedly shorter than the 8 to 10 week timeline that was on their website. And so this adopted borrowing bylaw would be included as part of our application for the Strategic Priorities Fund grant stream. Also needed for this grant application are a couple of fairly routine resolutions, just in terms of council resolutions that are required for applying for grants, which brings me to the 3 resolutions for council's consideration in tonight's package. First one is the loan authorization bylaw adoption, and the next 2 are for the grant application itself. The second resolution on this screen is very similar to a resolution already passed by council on July 15th. We just had to add the words grant funding to this resolution. And then the third resolution confirms council commitment to the project financially. This $9 million is the $16 million total project budget, less the $7 million that we're applying for with our SBF grant application. I just want to point out that that third resolution is specific to this grant application. not necessarily awarding a construction contract or anything like that. And that's it for me. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Mr. Burdett. Questions from council? Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. With regards to that third resolution and as well as cost overruns, caveat to that, how does that align with our procurement contract and any responsibilities for sharing cost overruns? Does it supersede it, or how will that impact?
Can I ask that question back just to try and clarify a bit? In terms of the progressive design build methodology, it ultimately winds up with a CCDC 14 contract, which is fixed price. Under that contract, cost overruns and responsibilities for which costs will fall to either our contractor, or like the risk of some costs will fall either to the contractor or to the city. But we go in with pretty much full costing for all suppliers, contractors into that. And so the fixed price really should be the ceiling, barring change orders driven by the city or some extraordinary market force. Those types of orders, if we decide to, as clients sometimes do on any project, change the goalpost midway through and drive up costs, the city would then have to take those on. But for the SPF grant and for many grants, and increasingly, because costs change, grantors have found that cities threw in very preliminary estimates when grants came out, because they come out very quickly, as has been noted by council, and then you get in a preliminary application, and by the time you know if you've gotten that grant, a year has gone by and your costs are out of whack again. So,
if I may just clarify then.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess my question is more specifically, we've signed a contract. It delegates risk for certain cost overruns to the contractor. This resolution here is not something that they can go, well, actually, you signed a resolution that says you're responsible for cost overruns. We were wiping our hands of it.
That's correct. And I would just flag, we have not signed that contract yet. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Shoesmith.
I had literally the same question, just far less eloquent. I was worried about cutting blank checks and such.
Thank you. Councillor Ramirez.
Thanks, Your Worship. Pretty much the same CAO, but the way I understood the progressive design build is, during the design phase at around 60 or 70% where your design is formulated, there is a stage gate, so to say, between the city and the designer, and we agree upon what the actual design is. And if there is a difference of opinion, there is a ramp off period for them, right? They can get out and we start all over again. So where I'm going with this is, there is enough language in the contract that is coming up with these designers. And my worry is writing something like this in a bylaw, so to say, does it make it like, are we adding a contingency on top of a contingency? Like, that's where I'm a little confused. I understand that this is the requirement from the government to write so, but still, like, why do we want to put this in a bylaw? Like when we have clearly stated what the contract is going to look like with these proponents.
Thanks, Councillor Ramirez. Ms. Weir may want to expand on this, but firstly, this third resolution is not part of the bylaw, for one. Second, it's just purely related to our grant application. It's to give the grantor peace of mind that if it goes above the 16 million, that we're not going to come running to them for more money in order to complete the project. This is giving them peace of mind that we, if it does go above 16, which is not at all the goal of the project or the expectation of the project, that we have that extra money to cover the overrun. And if that were to happen, that would come back to council for an approval of extra budget at that point. So this doesn't give us, free rein to go above 16 million. It's just for their peace of mind only. And then just to expand on what Mr. Bornowski said earlier, the 16 million, as you just said, also already includes a 15% contingency, which is to cover off those risks that happen during construction. So, I mean, that is our cushion to not go above 16 million. And obviously the goal is not to expend that whole contingency, but things happen.
Ms. Weir, did you have anything to add?
I think Director Burdick covered it. I don't have anything to add.
Thanks so much. Councillor Audie Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. I'm struggling a little bit with this because the maximum grant that we could get is $7 million. So how would we possibly go back to the grantor and ask for more money when the maximum grant that we can get is $7 million? Like I'm uncomfortable with that concept that we would put it into writing, that we're willing to go beyond 16 million. The bylaw clearly says we're only going to borrow 12. So I'm struggling with the concept that we're already talking about cost overruns and we haven't put a shovel in the ground.
Thanks, Councillor Audie Kelly. So I'll touch on your second point first about the different numbers, borrowing 12 and this number being 9. The borrowing bylaw and these next two resolutions aren't related despite being for the same project. The borrowing resolution of 9 million is just the math that we do when we apply for the grant. We tell them that the total project is 16, we're applying for 7, and the city has the funds to cover the remaining 9. And then with respect to putting that in writing, one of the main criteria that the grantors use when assessing our application is that we do have the other funds of the project available. And so that's what this resolution is intended to confirm from them, that we do have the remaining 9 million if they award us the 7 by way of, the borrowing bylaw or our reserves. So that $9 million is made up of the 4 million that we're contributing from reserves and the 5 million that we would have to borrow if they were to award us the 7. So that 5 of the 12, if that helps.
Further?
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. But the borrowing bylaw is for 12. So if we're taking 4 million from reserves and we're saying we're going to borrow 12, we're at 16. And we're asking them for 7, which leaves 9, but we're already going to borrow more than the remainder. Do you see where I'm going with that?
I do. And the borrowing is for 12 in the event we're not successful with this application. If we are successful, then we will not be borrowing the full 12. We can borrow as much as we need as the project commences.
Yes, so the fact that we would be passing a bylaw to borrow 12, is that not surety that the money's there? I just, that makes me uncomfortable. I feel like we're anticipating being over 16 million.
If I may, this type of resolution is typically required for a large capital grant that you assure and show in your financial plan that you have the budget for it. And that if there are cost overruns, you would be responsible rather than saying there are cost overruns. Now you pay a bit more, federal government, you pay a bit more, provincial government, and we'll pay a bit more because it's not seen, it's seen as a hard cap. Reason being, if I can recall council's memory to the skate park grant that was received, very quickly, it was determined that because of the cost of concrete and other supplies, we were not going to have money to complete that. And we went back to the grantor and asked if they had any more money, given unprecedented inflation. The message was a hard no, and we were delayed because we went out and generated more donations and grant funding to complete that project and then to expand it with the covered area. That was a successful project ultimately, but it was delayed. And so you have a grantor that very much wants to see the money it provides in grants expended and successful projects. So they want an assurance that we know what the project will cost, that we have a high degree of cost certainty, which we do, and that in the not anticipated eventuality that we have cost overruns beyond our contingencies, we'll make sure it also gets completed because they do not want to be giving out money and then looking bad for not having delivered projects. Which has happened in many places. You don't have to look far to see projects where they got a grant to build a system, but the estimates were too early, and then they've had to go back and beg for more money because they couldn't cover it.
So ultimately, this is just surety for the grantor that we will complete this project.
That's correct, Your Worship. That's what that specific resolution is about.
Thank you. Ms. Weir?
I was just going to build on that same concept, that it's strictly surety and that they actually want to see the commitment of the components of the facility and that you're going to deliver the entire project. So although they would only fund 7 of the 16, they still want you to build the $16 million project and ensure, or however, your budget with some contingency. But they want you to build what you've committed to in your grant application. And so they're making it clear in the requirements that they have a level of control when they give you the money that you can't turn around and build a fire hall half the size
Right.
for 7.5 million or something. So it's an agreement between the two parties, and it contains requirements for what you're going to deliver for them to give you the money as well.
Thank you. Councillor Adi Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. So forgive me, if we pass a loan authorization bylaw for $12 million and we get the 7 and we have cost overruns, can we not use the extra money from the borrowing? I'm still struggling with that, putting that kind of surety into writing, because if we've said we're going to borrow 12, we're going to authorize that, and we get 7, so we really only need 5, and then we end up needing an extra $1 million, we've already authorized to borrow 12. So theoretically, we could go over much higher than that.
Mr. Burdett, do you want to?
That's correct. But if that were to happen, if the project becomes 17, it would have to come back to council too, to approve the extra borrowing, the extra project cost. But yes, we could fund it through the remaining loan.
And sorry, just to flesh that out for me. So we approved the $12 million borrowing bylaw. We effectively have, and that's approved. We effectively have a line of credit for $12 million. We get the $7 million grant. There is still the potential that should we have cost overruns, we go back to that borrowing. Yeah, that was maybe an oversimplification, but.
Yeah, Mr. Barnowski said it's only for the firehouse and not unrestricted. But
fair enough.
Again, using the example of $1 million extra dollars, that would come back to council for approval, and there would be a funding recommendation. Maybe instead of borrowing more and paying more interest, we would have enough in a reserve somewhere.
Right.
So you don't have to
So we could decide at that point.
Yeah.
Ms. Weir?
If I may also add some additional context, again, this is strictly a requirement of the grantor. There's several questions above that ask you to explain in great detail your other sources of funding, and then they require the resolution that says you have the other funding and you will cover your own cost overruns as opposed to coming to us. So there is several opportunities to explain in detail how we have borrowed enough to cover, we've explained why we have the contingency we have, why we're borrowing the amount we're borrowing. So it's certainly not at all to set us up to overrun the budget. That is not the intention.
Thank you. Other questions, comments from council? Councillor Ramirez?
Thanks, Your Worship. Unfortunately, I see it the other way around. If I have progressed well enough on this project and you come up with a change order and say there's a $1 million overrun, none of us here will say no to that. So just committing to this at the outset, just in a very roundabout way, gives the authority to overspend. That's where my worry is here.
Councillor Shoesmith?
Yeah, I share that same concern. I mean, I envision the next council getting presented with some kind of overrun, and then, in what world does that council have 3/4 of a fire hall and then say, well, no? They won't.
Yeah, I guess I don't see it as pre-authorizing a cost overrun. I think given what we've seen already in terms of the reducing the overall costs in terms of our relationship with the builder, I think we're on a very good track, and that anything that would represent an overrun would likely, unless it's some catastrophic change in the market, or it's a change order that we've created, we would accept responsibility for that. Ms. Weir?
Also, we will bring back to you the contract. We will need your authorization to enter into the construction contract at the time we know the exact value of the construction contract, and we will be bringing you a construction contract that is within the project budget you've approved and the funding you've approved, and show what contingency is left beyond the actual lump sum contract we're asking you to authorize. So
Yeah, all this is saying is to the grant funder is we will build what we say we're going to build. We will spend your $7 million. Anything above and beyond that is our responsibility. I think that's a reasonable ask at this juncture in terms of receiving access to $7 million. Mr. Burdett.
Thanks, Mayor Milligan. I just want to summarize the borrowing bylaw. There's 3 kind of unknowns that have been discussed over the last couple months. One is this grant of 7 million. The other is the regional district contribution of 1.4, which we are working on a new agreement with them for. And then the third is the construction contract of 16 million. But the best case scenario, getting the grant, getting the 1.4 and being on budget leaves us borrowing $3.6 million to deliver this fire hall. And staff's quite confident that, or we're very hopeful that that situation will ring true.
Yeah, and when I first saw that number, and you know, I've been quite vocal about it, that's an opportunity that comes once in a lifetime. That's a generational opportunity to build a fire hall for $3.6 million. That's exceptional. And I think to balk now, to get cold feet now, I think is a bit would be a bit unfortunate. Councillor Remedies?
Thank you, Worship. I just want to ask this question to CFO, like what's the source of this optimism here? Like how are we so sure about this SPF grant?
I mean, the main source of optimism for me is that, you know, I've talked to these people a few times since the grant was announced. And this project is timed like extremely perfectly for applying for this grant. You know, we've been putting in a year and a half of design on this project now, and then they announced this grant, and you only get 3 months to apply for it. So if we weren't in this exact stage that we're on now, it would be extremely difficult to apply for this grant with the right stage of project. So the timing of it is quite fortuitous, and you know, to apply it to another project, which we've talked about in previous council meetings, like our water or wastewater, those projects, they're just still so in early stages. We don't have these levels of cost estimates to apply to a grant like this. So this one really is timed the best for it.
Mr. Baranowski?
Can I add, and staff don't want to assure council or the community that we are going to get this grant. Staff believes that there's really strong alignment after meeting with the grantor, after reviewing the criteria, after looking at this project as a leadership team across all of our projects in terms of readiness, in terms of alignment, regional impact, sustainable development throughout the corridor, the importance of this service to the community, to our neighboring communities, to provincial priorities like tourism and economic development, safety, climate readiness, emergency preparedness. There's great alignment with the criteria. Does that mean that we're going to be ahead of every other community in the province who's also desperate to fund critical infrastructure projects? We can't tell you what other communities are putting forward. But in our opinion, why we recommended this project, it's really good alignment. It's at the right stage of design. And so if we were looking at all of our capital projects and picking one, it would be this one. And indeed it was after a review internally. So I just want to temper the words like assuredness or optimism with, I think we do have, and I know we do, and we've said before, our professional recommendation is that this project is best aligned with this source when we look at all of our projects overall.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just wanted to clarify that we would be borrowing 3.6 million if we're successful, but that depends on the 1 point. So the total project that we're looking at is 16. So we are taking $4 million out of reserves. We can't forget that. So that is a direct cost that taxpayers have funded. So really, yes, I mean, 7.6 million would still be nice for a fire hall, but we are taking that money out of reserve. So it is money that came from tax dollars, yes? So I don't think we should make out like it's not.
No, and I don't think anybody is suggesting that. I think what it suggests ultimately is that that's the prudence of building strong, sustainable reserves, that you have that money in the bank for when a project is ready. And we find ourselves, we find ourselves at that point. And so that's a good thing. Yeah.
Yes, but just so everyone's aware that we
Yeah.
are taking 4
No,
million
fair
out.
enough. Yeah, fair comment. Councillor Nixon.
I'll move the recommendation.
I will ask our corporate officer to read.
Yes. Okay,
please.
so the staff recommendation is that the fire hall loan authorization bylaw number 2533/2025 be adopted, and that council directs staff to apply for grant funding through the Canada Community Building Fund Strategic Priorities Fund for the Fernie Fire Hall project, and that council supports the Fernie Fire Hall project and commits to the city's share $9 million of the project, as well as cost overruns.
Moved by Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor McIsaac. Any further discussion? Councillor Shoesmith?
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. You know, I understand that what's before us is a vote on approving the financing for this thing. Although I have to say, I mean, I'm still pretty upset that we have done away with the referendum and that we're reneging on the agreement that maintained that those should be recreational spaces in perpetuity. And, you know, I've got people telling me, you know, friends off if you vote this way or that way. We're going to turn you down in the store if you vote this way or that way. An immense amount of pressure, judgment, and scorn being leveled at me. And I'm not really happy with any of that. In fact, when people try and pressure me in that manner, it makes me want to vote against them, just to spite them. Because I don't like having people twist my arm, and I don't like that. However, all that being said, I am still worried about the little bit of a blank check. I understand it came about honestly, but I don't like that. And I really do feel that, you know, this is a generational decision. The town would have been better served had we went with a split presence on both sides of the tracks. I really do. I understand that that bridge has been crossed, that ship's sailed, but I'm still quite upset about all that.
Other questions or comments? Councillor Ramirez.
Thanks, Your Worship. Well said, Councillor. I was about to echo some of the sentiments that you were saying here. Just want to change the gear a little bit here, Your Worship, if you wouldn't mind. Like I just noticed that we have the correspondences also later in our agenda package. Can I ask a few questions around the correspondences?
No, we've got a motion on the table. We'll discuss the motion. We'll certainly discuss the correspondence when we get there. For sure.
Because these two are interrelated, and that's why I wanted to bring
absolutely.
bring that up before we actually went for the vote, if you wouldn't mind.
Would you have a specific question about the correspondence?
Yeah, I just wanted to understand a little bit better around. We certainly have gotten hundreds and hundreds of signatures here. I just wanted to get a clarification from the staff as to whether this constitutes a legal petition or is it still a correspondence? And if yes, what are the differences?
I'll turn to our corporate officer. Can you answer that question?
If I may, Your Worship. Staff believe it is important to clarify and highlight the legislative framework that govern petitions. And I can read out the information I sent around earlier today
Please.
to council on this point. Okay, so formal petitions are governed by section 212 of the Community Charter, and they carry legal weight. They're typically used when property owners are requesting the municipality to provide a specific service, such as extending a sewer line, paving a road, or installing streetlights. A service that would benefit only a defined area of the community, and in these cases, only the owners of those parcels that would be subject to the local service tax can petition, and there is a threshold for that petition. Formal petitions must also include detailed information such as boundaries of the service area, cost estimates, borrowing details, and the proposed cost recovery method. And the corporate officer is required to verify and certify whether the petition is sufficient and valid. If it meets those criteria, council is obligated to consider a bylaw to implement the proposed service. Now, in contrast to informal petitions, like the one before council today, informal petitions are not governed by legislation. These petitions are usually circulated by residents or community groups to express opinions or concerns about public projects or policies. Anyone can sign them, including non-residents. They often come in the form of online petitions, handwritten forms, or a mix of both. Because they don't meet the legal requirements under the Community Charter, they are not subject to certification, and council is not legally required to act on them. Instead, we treat them the same way we would any correspondence from our public, as input to be considered alongside other engagement and consultation with our community, and can also be taken into consideration for future decisions regarding the fire hall project. So while both types of petitions represent our community voices, it is important to understand that formal petitions follow a legislative process with binding outcomes, while informal petitions are expressions of public opinion and are treated accordingly. Thank you. Does that answer
Satisfied?
your question?
It is, I think it is going back to Councillor Shoesmith's point here, Your Worship. These are real voices, right? There are hundreds and hundreds of signatures now. I'm sure some of them were not in Fernie, and there were people outside of town who also must have voiced their opinion. It's just that where I'm a little uncomfortable here is we did not go for a referendum. We did not go for even a non-binding voting with our community. And there's all these people who have spoken very passionately about their opposition to this location. And yet here we are somehow moving along with our own process as if these things don't matter. And that was the reason why I voted no on July 15th as well. Not that I do not support the fire hall. It's just that this process has created so much, division in the community, and there is no real way for us to bridge the gap here. And I'm sitting here with all this information, and I appreciate the work that you have done, your corporate officer. I understand this is not a formal petition as such, as per the bylaw here. But still, it's like, are we kind of becoming so much procedurally bound that we have stopped listening to our people? Like that's what makes me really uncomfortable here.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't discount your perspective or the perspective of the 1,700 people who've signed that petition. The challenge we find ourselves, of course, is we've got an opportunity here that, as has just been said, we could potentially build a fire hall for $3.6 million. And we were elected to show leadership in these things, and popular or unpopular, sometimes it feels like the real leadership decisions are all unpopular. And hearing people's voices does not necessarily mean agreeing with the direction they're proposing. It doesn't mean we haven't heard them, we haven't listened. It means we're making, I'm going to ask the gallery not to do that anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
We have listened. I've lost a lot of sleep over this. You might not think so, but these, you know, when I see the comments on Facebook, when I hear that people refuse to come to council meetings because they feel like they'll be victimized afterwards on social media, you're right, Councillor Ramdas. It's created a deep division in the community, and that's incredibly regrettable. I don't disagree with that, but here we are, and we've been tasked with making the call here. I'm going to go to Councillor Shoesmith and then Councillor Audie Kelly.
Thank you, Mayor Milligan. Pardon me if I got a little heated a minute ago. This is a fairly fraught decision. I think, you know, it's extremely regrettable that we're sitting here and, you know, at stake is quite a lot of the taxpayers' money, and balanced against that is doing what I feel we should or should have. And, you know, I had something, it's just tough to keep it in the head for a moment. Councillor Ramdas makes an excellent point about, you know, hearing the people, and a lot of people feel cheated that we didn't have a referendum. And I think that we shouldn't downplay that. I think that I'll probably vote against, and should I carry that vote, then I would go on to move that we do have a referendum. There will be other things. There will be other grants. I don't really want to be sitting here right now arguing about a fire hall with everybody approaching me and bothering me at my work and phoning me and texting me all day and night about it. I really would like to be fixing our pipes. That's where I'd like my energy to go to. I mean, yeah, we need the fire hall for sure. But, you know, this is just tearing the town apart. And it's really hard to deal with.
Councillor Audie Kelly.
I really have to concur with basically everything that Councillor Shoesmith has said. I know people were going to use a referendum about borrowing to make it about site, but it is impossible to deny that this has been divisive in the community. And one of the things that is occurring tonight that I am uncomfortable with as well is the fact that there were 3 separate parts to those resolutions, 3 separate things, and we've rolled them into one. That's happened on more than one occasion. And there's like, do I want to deny the community an opportunity to get $7 million? No, I don't. Do I want all your taxes to be at least 6% instead of 2%? No, I don't. That being said, a grant isn't guaranteed, but we've made it part and parcel of all 3 things. Once again, it's like vote for all of this together or none of it. So I have a problem with that. I am also concerned, and have been all along, and have expressed it a zillion times, that I'm not sure we took the right path with the fire hall. It is entirely possible that we are going to need a satellite fire hall sooner rather than later. We just had a discussion about the OCP and the development, and the fact that we're going to need 551 houses within 5 years. We're putting an elementary school on the other side of the tracks. I could go on and on. All those fights have happened. All those debates have happened. But it's impossible for me to vote in favor of that motion when it's all tied together. I would be going against my own personal ethics to do that, but I don't want to deny people a $7 million grant opportunity at the same time. So I feel my only option is actually, if my only honest option is to not vote, because there's parts of it that I think I do want to direct staff to vote for that grant, but I don't want to not have a referendum and just ignore the fact that even if we take out duplication and we take out people that don't live in Fernie and we take out people that were actually deceased, there's still a significant number of signatures on the petition. So all that being said, I find that hard to ignore. I also find it really hard to ignore, and I said this last time, and that's why I abstained, because I have no remedy for the community. I believe, and I'm sorry to tell people sitting here, but I believe that there is a significant number of people that are in favor of building the fire hall, and we are also not allowing them a voice.
Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Worship. The council might consider entertaining, if Councillor Adia Kelly wants to, we can break up that resolution into separate resolutions. That's entirely feasible. If you wanted to move that. Especially potentially separating the first one, like the second and third, which are specific to the borrowing, which is separate from the original bylaw. I certainly would support that if you'd like to have two separate votes on that.
Thanks, Councillor McIsaac. Yeah, I just find it a problem that we do this. We roll things into one choice when it's really distinct choices.
Yeah, no, I understand that perspective. I think it is natural from an efficacy, an efficiency perspective to try to, when all these things more or less relate to the same thing, there are specific technical differences between them for sure, but they're certainly under the same subject matter. It makes sense to me why they're put there. But council is also afforded the opportunity under the rules to break up that a conglomerate of resolutions at any time. So you're more than welcome to exercise that ability, and I would support you if you'd like to do so. You could be three separate ones, you just move the hands.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. While we await the motion about splitting these, if this was going to be an easy decision, it would have been done. We've been waiting 46 years for a dedicated fire hall. There's been plenty of opportunity for alternative arrangements to have been brought forward every single time. It's got opposition. Doesn't matter what the decision ends up being, there's going to be a contingent of the community that is against, whether it's the location, whether it's the cost, whether it's the design. None of those decisions are going to be easy. But as you alluded to, we were elected to show some leadership. We are here to move the business of the community forward.
Thank you. Councillor Roundas.
Thanks, Your Worship. You said popular, unpopular decision. Councillor Hamilton is saying we were elected to make hard decisions. Absolutely. I agree with that. This is not about popularity here. It's not about winning popularity contest. Really, where my issue here is there's a significant chunk of our community that has an emotive connection with this facility, and we haven't afforded them a voice. Like, that's where we are having issue here. Like Councillor Adia Kelly said, like I myself and others here, we want this grant. We want the fire hall. We want to get this going. In fact, I want to move on to other things. Fire hall is not the only thing that is in front of the council. We are not here for the popularity contest. Neither am I shirking away from taking difficult decisions. This is something else. And let's not start painting, with broad brushstrokes, saying that we are somehow, when we are opposing to this, we are actually taking the easy way out or trying to be popular here. That is not what it is.
Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. Just as a comment to not allowing the community a chance to voice their opinions, a referendum is not the only opportunity for them to voice their opinions. We've got a petition, an informal petition here. We've had plenty of speakers come and speak at the dais. We've had open houses. I'm not sure how we cannot say that we're taking a leadership role and that we're trying to move business forward so that we can start thinking about other things that are facing this community by pushing the decision off, by voting against this, going to a referendum. Like that is the epitome of kicking the can down the road and not making a decision.
Councillor Adia Kelly.
Point of order.
Absolutely.
I am going to say something about listening. And this is going to make me unpopular. And this isn't a popularity contest for me. This is emotional for me. I was gravely honored when I was elected to this position that people had faith and trust in me. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to always agree with you. Listening means I hear all perspectives of everyone in the community, and then I have to make a choice. Okay, that's what listening means. And I'm sorry if I sound like I'm scolding or lecturing. I apologize to everybody if that's how it seems. I am a little bit emotional right now. This isn't about popularity, because one way or the other, you're going to be unpopular with someone, right? That's just how it is in this seat. And it's really easy to get up and say, oh, abstaining is a vote in favor of the motion. Well, sometimes abstaining is the only honorable choice that you can make if you agree with parts of something, but not parts of something else. Sometimes no is your only honorable choice, whether people like it or not. And sometimes it's yes. So I'm sorry if I sound like I'm lecturing the community, but I too have lost a great deal of sleep. I have had to go on high blood pressure medication. I had a medical doctor in the community tell me that 2 patients came to them in complete distress because they were told that they were going to lose their doctor because there's spouses of doctors on council. How egregious is that? I'm sorry, Your Worship, I apologize.
Not at all.
But that's egregious. And there's a few other things that need to be said. Green space is extremely valuable. I think it's not unknown that I voted against Prentice Park as the site in the first place. But to say it is the last green space in Fernie on the TV and on the radio is untrue. It is not the last green space in Fernie. Like, it is okay to be passionate, but it is not okay to personally attack people. It is not okay. It is okay to want to save something. I get it. This is about grief. There is grief in the community and there is division because it is hard to lose things. We have lost our community center. We are looking at losing a ball diamond. We are losing our outdoor arena. I get that. You don't think that it hurts everybody at this table? Yes, it does. And I'm sorry, I know I'm the girl here and I'm being girly right now, but those things needed to be said, in my opinion. They needed to be said. Also, whether one side or the other likes it or not, there are a great deal of people in the community that want the fire hall to move forward no matter where the site is. There are. That's just a fact. Perhaps if we would have found some magical site that everybody would have been happy with, probably the highway, I've always felt that that was the right place for it. That would have made everyone happy. But it deeply wounds me to see the division in the community, and I can't be quiet about it anymore. I'm sorry, Your Worship. I apologize.
Thank you, Councillor Artie Kelly. Well, I've said it before at this table, don't apologize for your emotions. These are very, very divisive issues and very deeply felt. Getting back to the question of dividing the resolution, do you want a motion that it be split, that we vote on the bylaw, the borrowing bylaw, separate from the grant, the 2 portions that are focused on grant funding?
I'm honestly not sure, Your Worship, that it's worth doing. Let's just move on.
Okay, with that, I will call, well, have we read? Thank you for that. With that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And those opposed? Councillor Ramirez and Councillor Shoesmith are opposed.
And I'm going to abstain, Your Worship, for the reasons that I stated.
Understood. And Councillor Artie Kelly has abstained. With that, we have discussed correspondence already in the conversation about the Boring bylaw. With that, we'll move on to reports from our council members if folks are feeling up to it. Why don't we start with Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Trying to remember what I've been up to the last couple weeks. It's been fairly busy, but kudos to Fernie Fire Rescue and staff for putting on a fantastic community safety day on Saturday this past weekend. And then Sunday, my day was made up with the soccer jamboree, which had been rescheduled from earlier in the springtime when we had a whole bunch of rain forecast. Kudos again to the Fernie Youth Soccer Association, the number of people that managed to come to the makeup day. I was anticipating only 4 people were going to show up from my team, but we actually had most of the team, and just the number of people down there making this community great. Also had a meeting with AKBLG for our advocacy committee and working through the ministerial meetings that we will be, well, the one ministerial meeting, potentially 2, that we'll be having it at UBCM, advocating on behalf of our community and the region. And lastly, to Councillor Audia Kelly's impassioned comments, I've also been honored with the offer of being part of a mental health panel for local leaders and elected officials at UBCM. So just in the process of planning out that presentation with them and how we can develop some tools to help better support our community leaders through these very difficult decisions that everybody is having to face.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Shoesmith.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Milligan. Let's change gears and talk about good stuff. Derby. Derby went amazing. We had the greatest derby perhaps that we've ever had. For anybody still listening, this is actually the first time in my adult life I was not the president of the Lions Club for the Derby. I still did all the ringside stuff. I would actually say, yeah, they made it better. It's hey, no, seriously, actually, one of life's great pleasures is having people take over from you, and then it improves actually. So it was really nice to see the new guys doing great, and I'm doing pretty good on the ringside still. Special thanks to the police. They did the Cops for Kids fundraiser there, I believe, and we managed to destroy a police car with a monster truck. I kind of stage managed that, so that was a lot of fun putting that one together. I also was able to go in the stead of Mayor Milligan on a mines tour, and thank you very much for that privilege. It's really rare when you get to go along with a tour like that where there's experts in their field at the top of their field, excited to show you around and answer any questions you have. I mean, I think many people in town are quite aware, but some aren't. We actually have a world-beating mine here. Like these guys are some of the best, and it's got the biggest equipment, the coolest stuff. I finally got to sit in the seat of a Laterno 2850, which is the world's largest loader ever, which was fun. They have chainmail on the tires. They're pretty cool. What came out of that, I managed to meet our MLA, and he relayed to me that he was interested in coming to a council meeting at some point. So I forwarded him our schedule. I figure his team will be in touch. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Milligan.
Thank you, Councillor. Did you wear your jacket and tie to the mine as you said you were going to?
No, I actually, there was a bit of a dearth of safety stuff. So I wound up wearing a Chinook set of coveralls, probably the first set of Chinook coveralls into the selenium plant there in a little while.
Councillor Nixon?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, that was tough. I don't know what I've been doing recently. It seems like a bit of a blur. Lots of school stuff, back to school stuff. Glad to see people aren't speeding through the zones. I think the other thing that last week I got to go to a pseudo retirement party, and there was a new person that was coming in and an old person leaving, or not sort of leaving. He's just sort of not going to be in that role any longer. And it was beautiful to see the next generation of people coming into this community with their small children and racing around and running around like when we first got here as well. So it was just really, that was a really, I just kind of sat back and watched that, and I watched all those little kids, and it was really beautiful. So that was the highlight of my September so far.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Audie Kelly.
Thanks, Your Worship. I had neglected last meeting to say that I had attended a tourism board. I'm the liaison for Fernie Tourism. And I just want to continue to commend that board. They're continuing to promote Fernie, which is good for our economic health. And they're always looking at opportunities for amenities and attractions and things that make us a world-class destination, and which also improve the livability for all of us residents here, because we get to enjoy those things too. And they also are excited to participate in the OCP process. I also want to say that the Derby was awesome, possibly partly because I was working at the front bar, which was a new bar, and I kept us well stocked with very cool beverages. So it was terrific, and I totally really enjoyed it. I also want to give kudos to staff and firefighters. I wasn't able to go to Family Safety Day, but I heard it was fantastic. Shout out to Trisha and everyone else who worked on that. Was great. I'm really looking forward to Pride coming up, and it's always fun, and especially in light of the divisiveness in the community, it's going to be kind of awesome to celebrate love. So I'm really looking forward to that. I wanted to say that the Ghost Riders are back in action. I believe they're in Golden tonight. And then also I wanted to talk about the OCP kickoff, and I want to say, and I know I've scolded the community a fair bit tonight, and I apologize again for that, but make your voice heard. There's opportunities. Make them heard at the beginning of the process instead of the end, really, because that's what counts. The beginning is really where you can have an impact. So please attend all those opportunities, fill in those surveys. What do you guys want this community to look like? Because it's your community. We're going to come and go. The OCP is going to cover at least the next decade. Some of us may no longer even be here, or as I like to say fondly, some of us might be at St. Margaret's. So take the opportunity. Yes, fondly, lately fondly. It's looking attractive, Kev. Yeah, it is. So I want to really say this, and I'm saying it and I mean it. Don't pass the opportunity by and then be upset that you did. Take the bull by the horns. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McIsaac.
Thank you, Worship. Well said, Councillor. Well, I won't repaint the wall other than with the congratulations for how well Derby went. I didn't participate, but I was golfing. I felt like I was there. It certainly sounded like I was where I was golfing. I'm really glad it came off really well. The only thing I want to mention separately from what everybody else had mentioned is that we have UBCM coming up. We have 4 ministerial meetings with education and childcare, and environment, parks, finance, and housing and municipalities. Quite looking forward to meeting with them and their staff and bringing our issues to them, hoping to continue advance previous projects like our daycare and so on, and find new opportunities.
Thank you. Councillor Ramirez.
Thank you, Worship. I'll have to go back in time almost a month and a half ago. First of all, thanks for giving me the opportunity to go to the Salvation Army breakfast. I haven't.
Thank you for going.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Yeah. One of the best things I've ever attended. I hope community members were able to make it to the weekend of that celebration that was going on. Really came to know about the history of that organization, the tons and tons of voluntary effort that goes on in making all those activities and programs run smoothly was just phenomenal. that was one thing. Secondly, sorry, couldn't make it to the Derby. I heard a lot of amazing things at the mine. People all across the valley had a great time, it looks like. So good job. And I was actually taking a little bit of a break from Fernie because the fire hall thing was getting to me too much. I needed a break for a weekend, so I couldn't make it. Lastly, Your Worship, I also went to the last Chamber of Commerce meeting as the liaison officer. I'll just bring up a few things that came about there. The Excellence Award planning is going on very well. The whole membership there is really looking forward to having a good event. There was also lots of talks about how well the business walks have been going across the organization. So looks like there is a little bit of an action for us at the City of Fernie on this one. They are looking for us to visit the zoning modification to ensure that Second Ave remains retail focused. If you remember, that had come up to the council and we had discussed about it. But really, what they want to see is the staff analysis to come back to the council, and some kind of an endorsement coming from the council is what they are expecting so far. That is that. And as you know, Your Worship, the planning department griefs are still ongoing. Lots of comments on that. And I did communicate to the chamber around all the work that we've been doing in the planning department, adding resources to reduce the number of backlog and things like those. But again, that's what I've been hearing from the business community about their pain points at this point in time. Sorry, I couldn't make it into Wapiti either. It was, again, same thing. I had taken a little bit of a break from Fernie, heard a lot of good things around how well that event was organized as well. Thanks, Your Worship.
Well, thank you, Councillor. And thank you all. Councillor Shoesmith, thanks for covering for me on that tour. And congratulations on not running the Derby, but a successful Derby. Well done. We are looking, council is looking for a youth councillor to fill our youth council position, an enthusiastic grade 11 or 12 student. And so if anyone is interested, submit their resume and cover letter by 4 p.m. on Friday, September 25th. And I understand our corporate officer is going to be out at the schools to make this directly known. We did kick off the official community plan process. We started this evening with a meeting, a meeting and workshop with council. Very exciting process, echoing Councillor Audie Kelly's words. Make your voice heard. Participate early in that process. Make sure people know what your vision of this community is in the future. And because this council may be a continuing body, but it won't be us. It'll be a whole bunch of other folks over the next 50 years. As well in the OCP process, I had the distinct honor of accompanying Manager Similini down to Yakutat and Cleat, presenting to their community leadership and asking how they would like to be engaged. And Manager Similini handled that meeting extremely well, so very pleased to accompany him there. As was mentioned, actually it was in the OCP meeting earlier this evening, the chamber hosted a lunch and learn on their employee housing project, which was really, Councillor Audie Kelly and I were able to attend. It was really interesting work that they're doing. Another side note, I'm on the International Joint Commission Council of Government Advisory Group, and their draft interim, so that International Joint Commission is the Elk Kootenay cross-border transboundary water pollution issue. And they have published their draft interim status report. It is more a process report than a actual numbers report. But it's open for public consultation until September 14th, which I appreciate is coming up very quickly. They have a 2-year timeline, so things are happening very quickly. On Saturday morning, I was able to attend the Elk Valley Flying Club annual pancake breakfast at the Sparwood Airport, which, yeah, if you haven't visited, it's a great little facility. And they heard a terrifying story, but it spoke to the value of that facility. A couple flying from Calgary lost their engine at 10,500 feet and managed to glide their two-seater aircraft into the Elk Valley Airport. And the airport sprung into action. We're able to get their engine replaced, actually, in one of their hangars, and those folks got home safely. Again, congratulations to staff on and all those who participated, all those community groups as well who participated on our Family Safety Day on the same day, on the Saturday. My greatest regret is I came back, missed a free burger from the firemen. That was rotten. And finally, there is an Indigenous Transboundary Mining Conference underway currently at Lizard Creek Lodge, hosted by Yakutat Nucleate, and I was honored to give some welcoming remarks there yesterday. And it's a difficult conversation, of course, that they're having, not least of all because they're talking about transboundary impacts, and they're the communities that were here before those boundaries were even made. So you got to have a strong sense of irony to participate in that conversation. With that, I want to thank all of council this evening. This was not an easy conversation. It hasn't been an easy conversation from the start. I want to thank all the public who've attended. I want to thank everyone who has been respectful throughout this conversation. It is challenging for everyone, and I get that, and I get it. You know, Councillor Artie Kelly, you said it extremely well. You know, we're all members of this community. We're just on this side of the table at this juncture. And so these things fall to us. And when this is done, straight onto wastewater. And we've got so many big things to deal with. And not one of them will be easy. So I thank everybody for their respectful input. Appreciate it. With that, unless there's anything else, I will adjourn.